And I probably get 50 emails per week from companies that are in the healthcare IT space looking to raise money. So he's right on. I mean, it is a very competitive market out there. So anything you can do, like you did with those emails, to make yourself stand out is great. So how many of you guys have heard of Hippocrates? Okay. So yeah. So I actually started. I feel guilty. I don't have any pictures of my children or anything like that. So I was there in the early days. This was us, a startup just like you guys are. I think I was employee 10. We were in a little warehouse. I was working on my door, sleeping on the couch. I can't believe anyone can fall asleep typing, but apparently I would do that often, and they would take pictures of me. And then I just did this, and it was funny. We did not want to spend much money on marketing PR in the early days, so I got a bunch of stethoscopes and coats, this is me, and dressed us all up because I didn't want to pay for stock art. And it was actually a good employee morale booster as well, because people got to see themselves on the websites and in collateral and everything, so it was a fun thing to do. So anyway, so back at Hippocrates, so I was there 11 plus years. I was basically in charge of marketing, building our user network. We got up to 45% of all doctors in the country. We were by far the most used technology among doctors, over 1.1 million healthcare professionals. We were really the mobile health pioneer. We kind of developed the market, and early on it was really interesting. We changed our business model. The business model at first was going to be that pharma companies were going to buy mobile devices and give them to doctors to use. And then we found that doctors were just going out and buying Palm Pilots because of Hippocrates. I mean, when we would survey our user base, they said the only reason they bought a mobile device was to use us. So we actually switched our business model to focus and provide the free software, and the doctors just had to buy their own devices. So I've seen a lot of surveys about trustworthy brands, and we are definitely one, if not the most trusted brand in the healthcare IT space among physicians today. And we have a freemium model, so for the most part, our product's free. We have premium products, which the physicians can pay $150 a year for, but frankly, I just want them to get on the free product, because pharma would pay $400 or $500 a year per physician to us, and that's how we generated the revenue from our company. So talking about PR, my presentation's a bit different. There's actually more words. It's probably something you can take home and look at later. But I was trying to sit down and think about, when I started at Hippocrates, what did I wish people would tell me, or what questions did I have? Do I get a firm? What kind of a firm? Do I do it myself? Things like that. And so I focused the presentation a bit here. But one of the things I wanted to point out in the history is that it's going to change over the course of your company. There are going to be sometimes you might not need a PR firm. There are going to be sometimes you want a PR firm. It also depends on your goals and the resources that you have internally. So when I started, we did not have a PR firm for the first year. We were doing everything ourselves, and part of that was, we didn't have much money. Actually, I should say the first 8 months. And then we had our early PR mistake. We raised $35 million in our Series B round, and we got all these great investors, and they said, you need a PR firm, and you have to go out and hire one of the best, because they have to get you in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and all the big publications. So we were paying about $10,000 a month for our PR firm, and we had them for about 6 months, and we ended up firing them. I mean, we had the money to pay for them at that point, but they weren't really doing anything for us. And the stories we were getting were the ideas that we had that we passed over to them to do the work. So we figured we might as well hire somebody internally. That would be a lot cheaper, and a junior person, and pay them a lot less. So we did that for a while. Then we decided that we did need some help getting contacts, because we didn't have the right contacts at some of the publications. So what we did was hire a consultant. And you can do that. There are PR consultants out there that will work for you 10 hours a month, 20 hours a month. You probably pay them $100 and $150 a month. So that's another option if you don't want to go the PR firm route. And then, as we started getting bigger, we decided we're going to hire a full-time dedicated PR person in-house, and actually we had an outside agency as well. So obviously that's when you're a lot bigger. But I guess the point here is you'll go back and forth. We had PR in-house and out-of-house 3 times over the 11 years, just based on what our strategy and our goals were. So, at a high level, what is PR when you're thinking about it? So, one thing, these are just kind of some, points, and I'll come back to them later, but these are kind of themes that will emerge throughout my presentation. So it's really a process, not an event. People think about, I'm putting out a press release, or I'm putting out news, but it's really a process, and it's a continually developing relationships with people, be it the key influencers, be it the media, be it the bloggers, and you're continually working with them. And it's not about broadcasting, it's about connecting. So that's, I think, one of the key things people make a mistake with. I have this news and I want to share it. You think your news is so important and people are just going to be so excited to write about it. But they have 10 other companies that day that think their news is the most important news. And so to the degree you're connecting with them even before you have news and you're developing that relationship, that's going to give you a leg up when you actually have exciting news. If you don't define your story, someone else will. I'll definitely say in these, compared to when I started at Hippocrates, PR was more about writing a press release. Here's what we want to say. You spend hours crafting your message. You put it out there, and they write about it. Today, other people are out there crafting your message for you. I mean, that's what social media is all about. And so some people think, well, it's not worth it's not worth it to spend a lot of time defining our story. But it's not true. And what PR, I've seen this quote several times, it's really the art of good storytelling and really spending time thinking about what is it that other people are going to find valuable in my product. And I'll talk about that a little later. The one thing we always used at Hippocrates was the so what test. Somebody would give me the pitch or say, we're going to go out and talk to the reporter. So what? Why do I care if I'm a reporter? And if you can't answer that question, then you shouldn't be pitching the reporter and you have to do some message rework. We talked about this all about relationships this time. Listening is important as publishing. So I think one of the exciting things these days about social media is that you can put out press releases, you can put out information on your company, but reading what people say about you and how they're talking about you is so valuable, and making sure you have somebody at your company that does that and kind of tracks the social media, but then also taking that and feeding it back in and thinking about how you might change your message based on what people are talking about in the blogosphere. So a lot of times people would ask me, well, what's the difference between media or marketing and PR? And I will say today the lines are blurred. Several years ago, this is how most people saw it. Marketing was about selling your product, building product awareness, and increasing your sales. And public relations was about selling your company, building trust, and kind of building and maintaining a reputation. But with the advent of social media, I don't really even see that distinction anymore. I mean, PR was integrated into marketing at Hippocrates, customer service, even product development. So it really wasn't its own function per se. It had its own budget, but it was really integrated throughout the whole company. And to me, the advent of social media made PR much more exciting. Instead of being a one-way street, it's a two-way street. You have more channels. Some people don't like that because you actually have less control over your message. The more places your message is and the more people that are picking it up. But I actually think it makes it more exciting. The other thing is I think it's easier to measure your success these days. And I think that's exciting, especially if you're at a bigger company and you're in marketing or PR. In the past, it was really tough to tell, what the outcome, I got in the New York Times, but how many more users did I get? What was my web traffic? You have data like that today that you can use to support your PR strategy. So a couple questions. Do I need a PR firm? And I would kind of echo what you said in terms of if you're early stage, I would think long and hard about it. It's very expensive. You might want to consider a consultant, as I mentioned, but it really depends on what is your company's strategy and your goals. So early on at Hippocrates, we had a goal we wanted to get this many doctors in the network, right? And we could spend all our time focusing on getting in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. But really what we heard and what we learned was that the way the doctors adopted technology was just talking to each other. So focusing on the individual doctors and giving them tools to share that they know about Hippocrates with each other was actually much more important than hiring a firm to try to get us into some of the big publications. I would also say it depends on your product. If you're in a very niche market where you're targeting kind of a smaller group of people, I think you can do it yourself in most cases. I mean, there's a more limited set of outlets that you need to go to, and you don't need to pay a firm big money to go after those outlets. It also depends on your internal resources, right? So what skills do you have in-house? Do you have good writers? Do you have good people that are thinking about, or do you have people that are good at thinking about creative strategy? Do they have contacts? Contacts is one of the key things, and you can go out and build contacts and be very creative and develop the relationships, but people that have contacts will definitely give you a leg up. And the other thing is just time, and I think this goes both ways. A lot of people think if I hire a PR firm, well, then I don't need anyone internally to do this. You actually have to have somebody spend a lot of time with that PR firm because they're not in your company. They don't understand the story, right? They're not seeing the feedback. And so they're only going to be as good as the amount of time that you give to the PR firm. So if you decide you do want to hire a PR firm, and you can hire, a local PR firm for less than $2,000, a smaller firm that's local, and you just say, hey, this is my budget, $2,000. Let's figure out what you can do for $2,000. What do you want to look for? So experience and results. You always want to see what other companies like you they have worked for and what were the results. A lot of times they'll tell you, oh, well, when we first hired our firm, they had all our competitors. Well, we worked for them. I said, well, they don't seem to be doing very well. Like, what were your results? And they actually often couldn't show us results, and if I take them off the list immediately. People. So what the PR firms will try to do is come in and give you this list of senior people that are supposed to impress you, right? Like, this person was at Google for 10 years, or this person was the head of this PR agency, like the most famous agency in New York for 20 years. But really, who's on the phone and working for you day to day are the junior people on the team. And so you always want to make sure you're interviewing the junior people, and then you get it in writing that you have those people on your account, because this will happen to you a lot. The bait and switch. So you meet the team, they're all excited, and then at the last minute they call you and say, oh, by the way, so-and-so got pulled onto another project. We're going to bring these 2 people onto your account. And if you get it up front and you get it in writing that these are the people on your team, they can't do that. And I would absolutely, if you go the PR firm route, make sure you get in writing who is on your team, especially if you like them. You want to ask about the number of accounts they're working with. So a lot of times we have people on our team that run 5 or 6 different accounts, and they were bigger companies than us. You're not going to get attention from those people. It's kind of that, we were the small fish in the big pond idea. And then have them pitch you. I would have them come in and say, I want you to pitch me on Hippocrates. And granted, you don't know as much about the company as I do, but I want to hear how you would tell my story. And then you can tell how well they do their homework and who they know in the industry. And it's a good test. So I talked about this, the so what test. So regardless if you're hiring a PR firm or you're doing this yourself, you need to create a communications plan. So as I mentioned with my team, the so what test, right? So what are your key messages? What makes you different? Are you in a new market? Is it a new technology? Is it a different approach to a problem that's been around for a long time? You really need to think those things through. What supporting information do you have? Do you have data about the market? Do you have internal data, usage adoption? We talked about that before. Survey data. Can you create your own data? This is one of the things we did early on, I think in our first year and a half. We thought in the medical field, okay, what is one of the most respected names? There's Mayo Clinic, Harvard, right? So we found a researcher at Harvard that did a study with us. It was a third-party study about doctors using mobile technology. And we probably paid about $10,000. I used this study for at least 7 years. I mean, with PR, people would pick it up and talk about it. And so thinking about what kind of data could really impress a PR reporter or a blogger ahead of time, and then planning that and doing your own study or doing a study with a third party can be very useful. Getting user feedback. So one thing we did early on was, we knew that part of the success of our product wasn't just getting in the big publications, but it was getting in the Louisville Register or the Milwaukee Journal, right? Some of the local markets. And in order to do that, what those people want is to talk to local users. So what we did was we said, okay, these are the top 15 media markets we want to get into. We combed our user base to see who were from those areas, and then we looked for people that used our product a lot. And then we actually proactively went out to those users and said, we're looking for people that would want to talk to the media. And most doctors, for example, they're very egocentric. They jumped at the chance. They want to be in the paper. It helps them market their practice. And so we developed a whole list by market of doctors who would be willing to talk to the press. And of course, that's what happened. We're talking to the Milwaukee Journal. They said, do you have a local doctor that could talk to us about your product? Of course we do, right here. You serve them up the next day. And 9 out of 10 times we would get an article that way.